Hello there, you're watching Nightline. I'm Anita Wu. The headlines. Government to impose levy on those flying out of the country. And dozens killed as Libyan crisis escalates. We begin with a headlining story. The much-anticipated bill introducing a departure fee was tabled for its first reading in the Dewan Rakyat on Monday. The bill, tabled by Deputy Finance Minister Dato' Amiruddin Hamzah, seeks the implementation of a new levy on any person leaving Malaysia. However, the amount of the proposed levy was not mentioned in the bill. The bill also proposes hefty punishments for those who avoid paying the levy. Dato' Amiruddin said failure to pay the levy will be deemed an offence punishable with a fine of up to 500,000 ringgit or a jail term of up to 3 years or both. The Dewan Rakyat was also told that anyone who tries to avoid or help others to avoid the levy will soon face a fine of up to 1 million ringgit. In Budget 2019, the government had proposed a departure levy of 20 ringgit for ASEAN countries and 40 ringgit for non-ASEAN countries. This is over and above the 73 ringgit airport tax that they are already paying. Dato' Amiruddin said the bill would have its second reading at this sitting as well. The Dewan Rakyat was also told that some 1,094 medical claims have been received through the B40 National Health Protection Scheme, or MySalam, between January and April 4th this year. Dato' Amiruddin said completed applications would be processed by the Takaful scheme operator within 2 weeks.
Dan sebanyak 97 tuntutan berjumlah 40,200 telah pun dibayar, di mana 95 tuntutan untuk kemasukan ke hospital dan 2 untuk penyakit kritikal, iaitu yang dapat 8,000 one-off itu.
The MySalam scheme was introduced by the Pakatan Harapan government and is currently still in its first phase. It is expected to continue for at least another 5 years if it is proven to help relieve the financial burden related to healthcare for the B40 household income group. The scheme benefits some 3.8 million recipients from the same group, as well as recipients of the Bantuan Sara Hidup Rakyat BSHR 2019 scheme. Still at the August House, Malaysia's economy is expected to experience moderate growth in 2019 due to challenging external factors. Deputy Economic Affairs Minister Dr. Muhammad Razzie Mat Jidin said these include the US government's temporary shutdown, which lasted 35 days from December 22nd last year to January 25th this year, the longest in the country's history.
Dr. Razzie was replying to a question from Linggong MP, Datuk Syamsul Anwar Nasara, on Malaysia's economic projection for the year and the ministry's economic buffering mechanism to avoid an economic crisis.
Selain itu, ketidakpastian dasar moneteri Amerika Syarikat, kesan pertumbuhan ekonomi China yang lebih perlahan, serta ketegangan perdagangan antara Amerika Syarikat dan China yang masih belum berakhir, turut dijangka akan memberi kesan kepada ekonomi dunia dan seterusnya kepada ekonomi negara.
He said according to Central Bank's 2018 annual report, the country's economic growth for 2019 will be supported by domestic growth, especially the demand from private sector, which continues to be the nation's main driver for economic growth. He also revealed that the private consumption is expected to grow by 6.6%, with private investments projected to rise by 4.9% in 2019. At the same time, all of the nation's main economic sectors are expected to record positive growth, with the service and manufacturing sectors projected to grow by 5.7% and 4.8% respectively. Both sectors remain the largest contributors to the nation's economy at around 79%.
Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Datuk Sri Mujahid Yusof, on Monday dismissed rumours of a rush at Lembaga Tabung Haji counters nationwide, with depositors applying to close their accounts. This follows last week's announcement of the Pilgrim Fund's lowest annual dividend yet.
Saya ingin nafikan sekeras-kerasnya mana-mana pihak yang cuba menimbulkan satu fitnah, kononnya cawangan tak cukup duit. Sebab benda itu kita punya bilik 24 jam mengawal semua kaunter di seluruh negara, dan saya kata ini satu fitnah. Sebenarnya saya katalah berhentilah, janganlah buat fitnah begini. Yang ada maklumat kita ialah penambahan deposit.
He said Tabung Haji would be lodging a police report against these rumours, which are aimed at creating unease amongst depositors. On Friday, the fund announced a dividend of 1.25% for the financial year 2018, a sharp drop from the 6.25% dividend paid out the previous year. Datuk Sri Mujahid also said that Tabung Haji will look for ways to shorten the waiting period for its depositors to perform the Hajj pilgrimage. He added that the management would look into it after they had managed to offset the board's financial position after suffering a deficit of up to 4.1 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, the recovery process of TH is expected to take up to 1 year. Economic Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali said this is based on the new instrument that is being implemented. He further assured depositors that their savings remain safe.
Kita menjangkakan untuk tabung haji dalam tempoh 1 tahun dengan recovery plan yang kita kemukakan ini, kita dapat memulihkan tabung haji insya-Allah. Kita terpaksa melakukan penstrukturan semula tabung haji dan kita telah meneliti mengenal pasti aset-aset tertentu yang boleh kita letakkan di bawah SPV baru yang dipersetujui oleh kerajaan. Dengan cara ini kita mewujudkan satu instrumen baru untuk memulihkan kedudukan kewangan tabung haji.
The minister explained that TH is now more stable as there is no cash flow problem. The Pilgrim Fund Board, he said, also took the initiative to explain the issue to depositors in its effort to dismiss various allegations. Last Friday, TH announced a dividend or hibah at 1.25% for the financial year 2018, involving a total distribution of 913 million ringgit to 9.3 million of its depositors. Datuk Sri Azmin was speaking after opening the United Kingdom and Area Council for Malaysian Students UKEC 2019 career exhibition in London. In Selangor, police are looking into the cause of the fatal factory bus crash near the mass cargo complex, Sepang, that killed at least 12 people on Sunday. Selangor Police Chief Datuk Nur Azam Jamaluddin said authorities are investigating whether the factory bus driver was driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol or even had fallen asleep at the wheel.
Dia dekat simpang 3 tu dia terus langgar, kita pun tak tahu apa punca dia, tak kesan brake pun kita tak kelihatan. Jadi kita akan probe into details lagi lah, sama ada driver ni terlibat dengan dadah ataupun sebaliknya ataupun mengantuk. Jadi kita akan jalankan siasatan dengan lebih detail lagi lah untuk mengenal pasti kenapa, macam mana kemalangan ini.
Initial investigations showed the bus driver had no record of any traffic offences and had a valid licence. Manpower agency Mutiara Karyama Sendirian Berhad had also confirmed that the 44 people, including the bus driver, involved in the crash were its employees. Its human resource executive, Nur Nadia Wahab, said the company would provide the necessary assistance to those injured in the mishap, including sending the bodies of those deceased back to their respective countries of origin.
Earlier in the 11:10 p.m. incident, it was believed that the bus ferrying 43 contract workers, mostly foreigners, was travelling on Jalan S8 Pekeliling, heading to the mass cargo complex. The bus driver, however, made a wrong exit at a roundabout before he suddenly lost control of the vehicle and swerved to the left side of the road, plunging into the storm drain. Zone 5 South Selangor Fire and Rescue Department Chief Muhammad Fadil Saleh said they received an emergency call on the accident at 11:16 p.m. and deployed 38 personnel in rescue vehicles from KLIA, Sepang and Cyberjaya. Upon arriving, the firefighters secured the site of the crash and stabilised the bus before extricating the trapped victims. The 12 dead comprised the Malaysian bus driver, identified as 43-year-old Suresh, and 11 foreign workers, 5 of them male Bangladeshis, 4 female Indonesians, and 2 male Nepalese. 9 of the victims were killed on the spot, while 3 others succumbed to their injuries while being treated at the Serdang and Putrajaya hospitals. Those injured are made up of 2 Malaysian women and 30 foreigners, namely from Indonesia, Nepal, and Bangladesh. 11 of them are still in critical condition, while the rest are partially or non-critically wounded. Some of the injured passengers have already been discharged after receiving treatment and allowed to return home.
Meanwhile, a family member of the factory bus driver said Suresh had no problems before the crash. His brother-in-law, S. Satyasilan, aged 43, also said Suresh, a father of 3, had been working as a bus driver for over 10 years and had never been involved in an accident.
Semalam pun saya jumpa juga dia, hari-hari saya jumpa juga dia. Dia mari saya punya rumah. Dia sembang-sembang macam biasa lah? Biasa pukul 8.30 baru saya nampak lah dia. Nanti dia balik pukul 11.30 dia bawa bas lagi.
He also said when Suresh came to pick up his children at Satyasilan's house in Taman Desa Cempaka, Nilai, just hours prior to the incident, he did not show any strange behaviour. The minister's son, who was detained by the police after testing positive for drugs earlier this year, will be charged in court soon. Home Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the pathology report of the suspect, who was investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act, has been received by the police. He added that police have submitted the investigation papers to the Attorney General's chambers, which gave the green light to charge the suspect. Tan Sri Muhyiddin said this in his written reply to Lenggong MP Datuk Dr. Shamsul Anwar Nasara, who asked the ministry to state the full SOP for those who tested positive in suspected drug cases and the time needed to obtain a pathology report. It is learnt that Ahmad Saiful Islam Muhammad was among 101 picked up during an anti-vice raid on January 5th in the Jalan Ampang area. Defence Minister Muhammad Sabu later confirmed his son was picked up by police after testing positive for drugs. Coming up after the break, businessman slapped with 68 money laundering charges in Pulau Pinang undersea tunnel scandal. Do stay tuned. Nightline continues. A new bill to control all tobacco-related products and e-cigarettes and to enforce the no-smoking zone ruling is expected to be introduced by the end of this year. Health Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad said the tobacco control bill is currently being drafted by his ministry.
Everything about e-cigarettes, the entire supply chain of e-cigarettes is as simple an answer, yeah. Sampailah perkara yang boleh, perkara yang tak boleh, bagaimana peraturannya, ya, apakah undang-undangnya dan termasuklah apakah hukumannya sebagainya. Ya, semuanya itu adalah dalam perangkaan sebuah rang undang-undang.
Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli said this in a media conference after launching World Health Day in Putrajaya on Monday. He said at present, tobacco, cigarettes and vape come under different laws. He said cigarettes are regulated by the Control of Tobacco Products Regulation 2004, itself under the Food Act 1983, while e-cigarette liquids containing nicotine fall under the Poisons Act 1952. A total of 41 Rohingya illegal immigrants were detained upon arrival in the waters of Kuala Perlis on Monday. The illegal immigrants, all men, were arrested after villagers alerted the authorities of their presence.
Perlis Police Chief Datuk Nur Mushar Muhammad said the Rohingyas had split into 3 groups upon reaching land at around 7:15 a.m. According to police, villagers spotted a number of illegals at Sungai Baru Beach looking weak and hungry.
Betul kami tak tahu sebab memang tengok kenapa makan nasi lemak dulu atas jalan lah.
Keadaan mereka macam mana tadi mai tadi tengok?
Itu tak berselut juga.
Dia kata dia akan naik satu trip lagi lah.
Oh, nak naik? Ada?
Naik satu trip lagi tapi tak pasti lah. Mengalau benda tu lah.
Semalam media?
Satu trip lagi tu laki ke perempuan?
Itu tak pasti tu.
All of them were taken to Tuanku Fauzia Hospital in Kanga for medical examination and later handed over to the Immigration Department for further action.
In Kuala Lumpur, businessman G. Nanaraja, who was implicated in the Pulau Pinang undersea tunnel scandal, was slapped with 68 money laundering charges involving 11.4 million ringgit. He, however, claimed trial after all the charges were read out to him by 2 court translators before Judge Rosina Ayub at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on Monday. According to the charge sheets, the highest amount of monies involved are payment of 2.2 million ringgit to the Home Ministry on September 19, 2017 and 2.4 million ringgit to Matthew Ong and Associates on August 28 the same year. The 38-year-old former Datuk Sri was also alleged to have made several payments from illegal activities from a bank account to 2 government organisations, 26 different companies and 10 individuals between July 2017 and January last year. The offence falls under the Anti-Money Laundering and Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act, which carries a maximum fine of up to 5 million ringgit or a maximum jail term of 5 years. The court set May 6 for mention at the Shah Alam High Court.
In Pahang, a tow truck driver and his assistant were killed when their vehicle rear-ended a lorry which had stopped at the emergency lane on the East Coast Highway near Gambang Monday morning. The victims killed on the spot were identified as driver Muhammad Asrul Yatim and his assistant Lam Wai Kit, both aged 22. Police said the driver of an MPV which was being towed was also injured in the accident and was rushed to the Tengku Ampuan Afsan Hospital in Kuantan. Over in Johor, Marine Police have foiled an attempt to smuggle out ecstasy pills through Sungai Pulai in Johor Bahru last Saturday. The authorities also recovered some 21,000 ecstasy pills worth 650,000 ringgit, which were dumped into the sea. According to Marine Police Commander ACP Paul Q. Kon Chiang, 2 smugglers aged between 30 and 40 managed to slip away. Police also seized a fibre boat, an engine and fuel. Over in Malacca, a sales executive has been charged at the Ayakuro Sessions Court for allegedly receiving a 500 ringgit bribe for faking a diploma from a private university on Monday. Accused 33-year-old C. Vijayakumar, however, claimed trial when the charge was read out before Judge Datuk Muhammad Nasir Nordin. If convicted, the accused faces a maximum jail term of 20 years and a fine not less than 5 times the amount of the gratification or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher. Meanwhile, in Sabah, 4 families in Tawa were left homeless after their houses in Kampung Masjid Al-Taqwa were razed by fire Monday morning. The fire had reportedly spread to other nearby houses, but 3 other homes were saved due to the prompt action by the Fire and Rescue Department personnel. There were no injuries reported, and the cause of the fire and total losses have yet to be determined.
Still to come on Nightline, airstrike kills scores in Yemen. Stay tuned. On to the foreign front. In Libya, the death toll from fighting between troops loyal to the internationally recognised Government of National Accord, GNA, and pro-Haftar fighters near Tripoli has risen to at least 32 people, with 50 others wounded. According to the United Nations UN, the fighting also caused more than 2,800 other people to flee the city, with many more civilians trapped and cut off from emergency services. The 2 sides exchanged airstrikes days after Haftar, who backs an administration in eastern Libya opposed to the GNA, launched an offensive Thursday to seize the capital, prompting pro-GNA forces on Sunday to announce a counter-offensive. The clashes came despite calls by the United Nations and the United States for an urgent ceasefire. Libya has been riven by divisions since the NATO-backed uprising in 2011 that killed dictator Muammar Gaddafi, with rival administrations and armed groups vying for power and control of the country's oil. Whereas over in Yemen, a large explosion at a warehouse in the country's rebel-held capital, Sana'a, has killed at least 13 people, including 7 children. The explosion, which damaged nearby schools, also wounded more than 100 others. According to Iran-aligned Houthi rebels, who seized control of the capital in 2014, the Saudi-led coalition had targeted the warehouse with an airstrike. The coalition, however, denied carrying out any strikes in the area. The Saudi-led coalition has been fighting the Houthis since 2015 in a conflict that has killed tens of thousands of people and pushed Yemen, the Arab world's poorest country, to the brink of famine. In other news, British Prime Minister Theresa May is expected to visit Germany and France for a last-ditch Brexit talk with European leaders. The Prime Minister is set to meet German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday in a day of crucial talks ahead of an EU summit on April 10th to discuss the UK's request for an extension to Article 50. The visit comes as the French Prime Minister gave a stark warning that he would push for tough conditions on any extension granted to the UK by the EU 27 on Wednesday. May will make the argument that talks with Labour are on the brink of a breakthrough, although those negotiations stalled at the end of last week and no formal meetings are scheduled to start again. However, earlier it was reported that May had agreed to a new customs union with Jeremy Corbyn in a bid to win over Labour and pass a Brexit deal through Parliament. Coming up after this breather, third stage action from the 2019 Le Tour de Langkawi. Do stay tuned. We're back with sports news now, cycling the 2019 Le Tour de Langkawi. Floor's pro racing Travis McCabe romped to his second career victory in Putrajaya after winning the third stage of the race from Mua to Putrajaya on Monday.
The American rider claimed the checkered flag after finishing the 192.6-kilometre race in 4 hours, 49 minutes and 39 seconds. He was followed by Italian Matteo Pellucchi for Androni Giaccatoli Sidermec team in second place and Andrea Guardini from Bardiani CSF in third. The win was enough for McCabe to take the yellow jersey as the overall leader, leading 4 points ahead of Marcus Cooley of Sapura cycling team. The Australian also grabbed the green jersey as the new sprint king. National rider Sofiane Nabil took the coveted white jersey for the best Asian rider, while Angus Leon from Oliver's Real Food retained the King of the Mountain title. The fourth stage will be held on Tuesday, spanning 115.6 kilometres from Shah Alam to the notorious climb in Genting Highlands.
Looks like that sports item wraps up Nightline this time around. We'll leave you with this mesmerising aerial view of an artificial lake in Lebanon named the Karaun. With that, I'm Anita Wu. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.